The people pleaser living inside you wasn't born because you're naturally weak. It formed through a belief that quietly became part of who you are. If I keep everyone happy, they'll accept me. If I never let anyone down, they won't push me away. If I always give more, they'll finally see my worth. So you learn to become agreeable. You learn to say yes before you even asked yourself what you actually wanted. You learn to apologize even when you've done nothing wrong at all. You learn to swallow your anger, mute your opinions, and shrink yourself so others could feel more comfortable. For a long time, you probably called this kindness, but this video isn't here to make you less kind. It's here to break down the fear hiding behind that kindness, the fear that says you must sacrifice yourself to earn love, respect, or acceptance. The people pleaser stays alive by making one dangerous promise. I will never be a problem for anyone. So you become the one who always understands, always forgives, always adjusts, and always makes space. When someone needs help, you instantly feel it's your job to give it. When someone seems upset, you assume you're the one who has to fix it. When someone pulls away, you replay your own actions looking for what you did wrong. You become so busy shielding everyone else from discomfort that you stop noticing how much you're carrying inside yourself. Your own needs get pushed aside. Your own boundaries get ignored. Your own voice gets quieter and quieter. And every single time you abandon yourself just to keep someone else at ease, the people pleaser inside you grows a little stronger. This is where real change has to start. You need to understand that people-pleasing isn't always kindness. Sometimes it's fear, simply wearing kindness as a disguise. You might help because you truly care, but you might also help because you're scared that saying no will make people dislike you. You might agree because you respect someone else's view, but you might also agree because conflict makes your skin crawl. You might forgive because you believe in compassion, but you might also forgive because you're terrified that protecting yourself will push someone away. From the outside, the action looks identical, but the reason behind it changes everything. Genuine kindness comes from freedom. People-pleasing comes from fear. Genuine kindness says, I want to give this. People-pleasing says, I have to give this, or I might lose my place. The people pleaser inside you feeds on your fear of rejection. It whispers that being disliked is dangerous. It convinces you that a single disagreement could end a relationship. It makes you believe that someone else's disappointment proves you did something wrong. Because of that, you start managing people instead of actually connecting with them. You choose every word carefully. You bury your real opinions. You go along with things that go against your own values. You put up with behavior that hurts you because losing the person scares you more than losing your own peace. But every time you pick acceptance over honesty, you send yourself a quiet message. Their approval matters more than my truth. And that message slowly eats away at your confidence. You can't build self-respect while you keep betraying yourself. You can't grow mentally strong while letting every opinion around you dictate your behavior. You can't feel free while you're constantly wondering, will they get upset if I say no? The people pleaser inside you keeps you trapped because it teaches you to measure your worth by other people's reactions. If they smile, you feel safe. If they praise you, you feel valuable. If they seem disappointed, you feel guilty. If they criticize you, you start doubting yourself. Your entire emotional state ends up controlled by people who might not even realize how much power you've handed them. But here's the truth that starts killing the people pleaser for good. You're allowed to disappoint people. You're allowed to say no. You're allowed to change your mind. You're allowed to protect your own time. You're allowed to disagree without turning cruel. You're allowed to have needs without apologizing for simply existing. Someone's disappointment doesn't automatically mean you made the wrong call. Sometimes people are disappointed because they expected endless access to a version of you that doesn't exist anymore. They were comfortable with how available you always were. They benefited from your silence. They liked you best when you never challenged what they expected from you. So when you start choosing yourself, they might call you selfish, not because you became selfish, but because they lost the version of you that was easiest to control. This is exactly why the people pleaser inside you fights back against change. The moment you start setting boundaries, guilt shows up right on cue. Your mind might push you to explain yourself more, to apologize, to go back, to smooth things over again. But guilt isn't always a signal that you're doing something wrong. Sometimes it's just the discomfort that comes with doing something new. You've spent so long putting yourself last that choosing yourself now feels strange and unfamiliar. You've been conditioned to believe your value comes from being useful. Now you have to learn that your worth exists even when you're not helping, pleasing, fixing, or sacrificing anything at all. You don't need to turn cold to kill the people pleaser inside you. You don't need to stop caring. You don't need to become selfish, distant, or harsh. You just need to stop offering kindness as a payment for acceptance. Help when you genuinely want to help. Give when giving doesn't mean losing yourself. Love people without losing your identity in the process. Be compassionate without carrying the weight of everyone's happiness on your shoulders. The goal was never to stop being a good person. The goal is to stop believing that being good means you have to disappear. The people pleaser inside you starts to die the moment you stop asking, how do I keep everyone happy? And start asking instead, why have I been willing to lose myself just to be accepted? And once you recognize every moment where you betrayed yourself, you can start reclaiming the power you've been giving away just to belong. Every time you betray yourself just to be accepted, the people pleaser inside you gets a little stronger. It grows every time you say yes, while your mind is screaming no. It grows every time you agree with something you don't even believe, because conflict scares you. It grows every time you apologize for simply having needs. It grows when you hide your real feelings to protect someone else's comfort, or sacrifice your own peace because you're afraid of being labeled selfish. These moments might feel small in the moment, but repeated self-betrayal slowly reshapes how you see yourself. You start believing your needs matter less, your boundaries are up for negotiation, and your worth depends entirely on how useful you are to other people. This is exactly how the people pleaser takes over, not through one big decision, but through hundreds of tiny moments where you chose approval over your own truth. At first, people-pleasing can even feel peaceful. You avoid arguments. People praise you for being so easygoing. They call you helpful, understanding, reliable, kind. But underneath all that approval, a different reality starts building. You grow exhausted because everyone feels entitled to your time. You feel invisible because people notice what you do for them, but rarely ask what you actually need. You grow resentful because you keep giving without getting the same in return. And yet, you stay silent, afraid that voicing your frustration will make you seem difficult. This is the trap. You give up your peace to avoid conflict, but the conflict never really disappears. It just moves inside you instead. The people pleaser inside you wants everyone to think you're always fine. So you smile even when you're hurting. You say it's okay when it really isn't. You accept disrespect because speaking up feels too risky. You keep showing up for people who only remember you exist when they need something, and then you wonder why nobody seems to recognize your worth. But people can't respect boundaries you've never actually shown them. If you keep teaching others that you'll tolerate anything, They may start treating your patience like an endless resource. That doesn't mean everyone is deliberately using you. It just means your behavior is telling them what you're willing to accept. And every time you give up your own limits just to stay liked, you're quietly teaching people that your approval comes cheap. This is where your personal power starts slipping away. Power was never about controlling other people. It's the ability to stay loyal to yourself, even when it's uncomfortable. The people pleaser loses that power because every decision gets filtered through one single question. How will they react? You stop choosing based on your own values and start choosing based on everyone else's expectations. You might know exactly what you want, but you hesitate because someone could disagree. You might see clearly that a situation isn't healthy, but you stay anyway because leaving could disappoint someone. You might have a strong, clear opinion, but you hide it because you just want to be accepted. And little by little, your life turns into a performance built to keep everyone else comfortable. The more you perform for others, the more distant you become from who you actually are. Approval you earn by betraying yourself is never true respect. Someone might enjoy how easy it is to control you, but that does not mean they respect you. Someone might praise how endlessly available you are, but that does not mean they value your time. Someone might appreciate your silence, but that does not mean they honor your voice. Real respect starts when people realize you have standards, limits, priorities, and a life that guilt cannot control. The people pleaser living inside you is afraid that setting boundaries will drive people away. But if someone only stays around because you have no boundaries at all, what exactly are they respecting? Is it the real you or just the version of you that never refuses anything? Every unnecessary sacrifice you make quietly builds a hidden debt inside you. You might tell yourself you're giving freely with nothing expected back. But if you secretly hope for appreciation, loyalty, or equal effort in return, disappointment always finds its way in eventually. You start thinking, after everything I've done, how could they treat me this way? But here's the painful truth. People usually accept whatever version of you keeps showing up. If you never voice your needs, they may assume you don't have any. If you keep agreeing, they may assume you genuinely agree. If you're always available, they may believe your time has no boundaries at all. This is exactly why killing the people pleaser takes more than simply noticing what other people do. It demands honesty with yourself first. Ask yourself this. How many times have you said yes purely out of fear of being rejected? How many times have you kept quiet because you were afraid of being judged? How many chances have slipped away because you were too busy carrying responsibilities that were never even yours to begin with? How many relationships have you kept alive by shrinking yourself, staying quiet, and making yourself easier to please? These questions might sting, but discomfort is exactly where real change begins. You can't take your power back while telling yourself that constantly betraying your own needs is somehow kindness. You have to face the true cost of abandoning yourself over and over again. The moment you start choosing honesty over approval, people will start noticing that something in you has shifted. Some will respect that shift. Others will push back against it. The ones who benefited from your people-pleasing might start calling you selfish, cold, or difficult. Their reaction can awaken that old fear inside you, tempting you to slide back into your former behavior. But remember this, feeling uncomfortable doesn't mean you've done something wrong. Sometimes it simply means you're finally stepping out of a role that was quietly destroying who you are. You don't need to become aggressive to take your power back. You don't need to punish anyone or push everyone away. You just need to stop working against yourself. When something goes against your values, acknowledge it. When your time is limited, say it plainly. When you disagree, say so honestly. When you need to rest, take that rest without turning your tiredness into an apology. Every single time you honor your own limits, the people pleaser inside you grows a little weaker. Every time you choose self-respect over instant approval, you rebuild a bit more of the trust you lost with yourself. The goal here isn't to make everyone around you miserable. The goal is to stop making yourself miserable just so everyone else can stay comfortable. You can be generous without letting people use you. You can be caring without becoming responsible for every single person around you. You can be kind without being obedient. And you can be loved for exactly who you are, not for how completely you're willing to disappear. The people pleaser inside you loses its grip every time you stop trading away your identity for acceptance and start standing firmly behind your own values. And once you stop betraying yourself just to be liked, you're finally ready to learn how one small word, no, can protect your peace without guilt and without endless explanations. The word no might be one of the smallest words in the language, but for a people pleaser, it can feel like a real threat. The instant someone asks for your time, your energy, your help, your attention, or your agreement, your mind starts scrambling for reasons to say yes. Even when you're exhausted, uncomfortable, or simply unwilling deep down, you might already know the request is too much, but another voice quickly jumps in. What if they get upset? What if they think I'm being selfish? What if they stop liking me? So you say yes, not because you actually want to, but because disappointing them feels far more painful than betraying yourself. This is exactly how the people pleaser inside you keeps surviving. It turns every single request into a test of your worth, convincing you that saying no could cost you love, respect, or acceptance. But this is where that people pleaser starts to die. The moment you truly understand one simple truth. Saying no doesn't make you cruel. It simply proves that your life has limits. Your time is limited. Your energy is limited. Your attention is limited. If you say yes to everything, eventually there's nothing left for your own goals, your health, your peace, or your growth. And yet people pleasers often treat their own needs as less important than everyone else's. They believe other people deserve understanding, while they themselves must stay endlessly available. They shield everyone else from disappointment while quietly swallowing their own exhaustion. Over time, this builds a life where everyone has access to you, but you no longer feel connected to yourself. The people pleaser inside you fears the word no because it has learned to confuse rejection with responsibility. You might believe that turning down a request means rejecting the person themselves. But those two things are not the same. You can care about someone deeply and still say no to what they're asking. You can respect a relationship and still guard your own time. You can be generous without being permanently available. A healthy no doesn't say you don't matter. It says my limits matter too. People who genuinely respect you might feel a little disappointed, but they'll understand that you're a human being with needs, priorities, and boundaries. Those who get angry simply because you have limits may be revealing that they were more comfortable with your obedience than with your honesty. One of the strongest habits a people pleaser develops is over-explaining. You don't just say no, you build an entire defense around it. You explain your schedule, your emotions, your reasons, every little detail surrounding your decision. Then you apologize again and again, hoping the other person will approve of your boundary. But too much explanation often weakens the very boundary you're trying to build. It sends the message that your decision is still up for negotiation and that all the other person has to do is challenge your reasons long enough to change your mind. This is why a calm, direct response carries so much more power. I can't do that. That doesn't work for me. I'm not available. I'm going to pass. These aren't rude statements. They're simply clear ones. You don't owe everyone access to every detail of your life. Privacy isn't dishonesty. A boundary isn't an accusation. And a simple no doesn't require a full courtroom defense. The people pleaser inside you might feel uneasy when you stop over-explaining because it has spent years trying to make every decision acceptable to everyone else. But your decisions don't need someone else's approval to be valid. You're allowed to stand behind a choice even when another person doesn't like it. At first, guilt might creep in. You may say no and then replay the whole conversation in your head. You might wonder if you sounded too harsh. You might feel the urge to send another message, apologize again, or offer more than you're actually able to give. This is exactly where you need to understand the difference between guilt and actual wrongdoing. Sometimes guilt is a real signal that you crossed one of your own values. But other times, it's simply the discomfort of breaking an old familiar pattern. If you've spent years saying yes automatically, a healthy no might feel wrong purely because it's unfamiliar, not because it's actually harmful. The people pleaser inside you will try to use that discomfort to pull you right back into the same old role. Don't let temporary guilt turn into permanent self-betrayal. Learning to say no also teaches you something important about the people around you. Once you stop agreeing automatically, people begin to show you how they truly respond to your independence. Some will respect your limits without question. Some will ask questions without applying pressure. Some might even grow closer to you because your honesty builds real trust. But others may become angry, distant, or even manipulative. They might remind you of everything they've done for you. They might make you feel selfish. They might act like your boundary is a personal attack. Their reaction is simply information. It doesn't automatically mean your boundary is wrong. Sometimes the clearest proof that a boundary is necessary is the anger it stirs up in someone who benefited from you never having one. You don't need to say no with aggression. You don't need to turn cold, defensive, or disrespectful. A powerful no can still be calm. You can speak with kindness while staying firm. You can listen without giving in. You can acknowledge someone's disappointment without taking responsibility for fixing it. This is what emotional maturity looks like. You can care about someone else's feelings without letting those feelings run every choice you make. Each time you say no, honestly, you rebuild trust with yourself again. You prove to yourself that your inner voice actually matters. You show yourself that your needs won't keep getting pushed aside just to keep other people comfortable. Slowly, the people pleaser inside you starts to lose its grip. The fear of being disliked gets weaker. The need to justify yourself gets smaller. Your confidence builds because you learn that you can handle someone else's disappointment without giving up on your own values. The goal isn't to say no to everyone you meet. The goal is to stop saying yes when what you truly feel is no. Your yes needs to come from a place of freedom, not fear. It should be a real choice, not something you hand over just to stay accepted. Once you understand this, kindness becomes stronger because nobody is forcing it out of you. Your generosity means more because guilt isn't driving it anymore. And your relationships grow more honest because people start meeting the real you, not the version who agrees with everything just to avoid conflict. The people pleaser inside you begins fading away. It happens when you realize that protecting your peace doesn't need anyone's permission, and saying no doesn't require an apology attached to it. And once you can hold boundaries without feeling guilty, you're finally ready to stop carrying emotions that were never yours to manage in the first place. One of the deepest habits a people pleaser carries is the belief that everyone's emotions are somehow their job. You walk into a room and instantly start scanning faces, tones, and moods. If someone looks upset, you feel this pull to fix it. If someone goes quiet, you start wondering what you did wrong. If two people are arguing, you feel like it's on you to bring the peace back. You might spend hours replaying conversations in your head, trying to pinpoint the exact second someone's mood shifted, even when you had nothing to do with it. You turn into an emotional manager, constantly adjusting yourself so everyone else stays comfortable. But while you're busy holding everyone else's feelings, who's holding yours? This is exactly where the people pleaser inside you starts to burn out. You're not just living your own life anymore. You're trying to steer the emotional experience of everyone around you. You water down your opinions so nobody feels challenged. You hide your own needs so nobody feels pressured. You say yes to things you don't want because you're scared someone might feel rejected. You apologize before anyone has even said they're hurt. Over time, you get so focused on preventing everyone else's discomfort that you stop noticing your own. You might look calm on the surface while carrying constant tension underneath. You end up emotionally drained, not because you care too much, but because you've mixed up caring with being responsible for everything. There's a real difference between compassion and emotional control. Compassion says, I can see you're hurting, and I care. People-pleasing says you're hurting, so I have to fix it, even if that means losing myself in the process. Compassion lets you support someone without giving up your own identity. People-pleasing convinces you that another person's happiness rests entirely on your behavior, but you can't control every reaction someone has. You can't prevent every disappointment. You can't force everyone to understand you. And you can't build a peaceful life if you treat every negative emotion around you like an emergency you're required to solve. Some people might be disappointed because you told them no. That disappointment is theirs to sit with. You can acknowledge it without giving up your boundary. Someone might get angry because you disagreed with them. That anger doesn't automatically mean you were in the wrong. Someone might feel uneasy because you're no longer endlessly available. Their discomfort might just be them adjusting to a healthier version of you. The people pleaser Caesar inside you wants to erase that discomfort right away. It tells you to say sorry, explain yourself, reverse your decision, or slide back into the old role. But if you keep rescuing people from every feeling they have, you might be stopping them from ever learning to own their emotions. This doesn't mean turning cold. You don't have to shut out people's pain or pretend feelings don't matter. You can listen without taking on ownership. You can offer support without giving away your peace. You can say, I understand you're disappointed, without following it with, so I'll change my decision. You can care about someone's feelings while still accepting that you can't control them. This is what emotional maturity looks like. It lets you stay compassionate without becoming emotionally controlled by others. The people pleaser often ends up being the person everyone leans on because they rarely let others sit with their own discomfort. If someone forgets a responsibility, you handle it. If someone creates a mess, you clean it up. Someone gets upset, and you immediately shift your behavior to fix it. At first, this can feel good. It can make you feel needed. People appreciate how reliable you are. They come to you because they know you'll show up. But being needed isn't the same thing as being respected. Sometimes people lean on you because you've quietly taught them that you'll carry burdens that were always theirs to carry. And every time you rescue someone from a responsibility that belongs to them, you get more tired while they become less accountable. There's a hidden fear underneath all of this. If I stop helping, will they still care about me? That question is exactly why people-pleasing can turn into an identity. You may have learned early on to feel important by being useful to others. You became the listener, the fixer, the peacemaker, the one who always gets it. But if your entire worth depends on what you do for other people, you might feel hollow whenever you can't help. You might believe resting is selfish because you're not being productive. You might feel guilty for choosing your own needs. The people pleaser inside you keeps you constantly busy because stillness might force you to face a hard question. Who am I when I'm not solving everyone else's problems? The honest answer is that you're still valuable. Your worth doesn't vanish the moment you become unavailable. Needing rest doesn't make you selfish. Letting someone feel disappointment doesn't make you uncaring. You are not in charge of keeping every relationship emotionally smooth. Healthy relationships leave room for both people to have feelings, boundaries, needs, and moments where they don't agree. If a relationship only stays peaceful when you shrink yourself, that isn't peace at all. That's emotional surrender. As you stop managing everyone's feelings for them, you might notice some people react strongly. They may say you've changed. They may accuse you of pulling away. They may try to make you feel guilty for no longer carrying what was never yours to begin with. This is exactly where you need to stay calm. You don't need to argue your case. You don't need to prove you still care. Let your actions speak for themselves, showing that you can be kind without being controlled. You can stay present without being consumed. You can listen without fixing everything. You can support someone without surrendering yourself. The strongest people aren't the ones who never feel other people's emotions around them. They're the ones who can stay compassionate without losing their own center. They understand exactly where their responsibility ends. They know that every person has to learn to manage their own reactions, face their own disappointments, and carry their own emotional weight. Once you finally accept this, you stop living in constant fear of upsetting people. You start making decisions based on truth instead of emotional pressure. Your relationships grow more honest because you're no longer performing the role of everyone's emotional caretaker. The people pleaser inside you starts losing its grip once you understand you can care deeply without carrying everything on your shoulders. And once you stop rescuing people from disappointment, you become strong enough to let them react to your boundaries without slipping back into the version of you they could easily control. The moment you stop trying to please everyone, some people will end up disappointed. That's not just a possibility. It's almost guaranteed. For years, they may have known you as the person who always said yes, always adjusted, always helped, and always made space for their needs. They got comfortable with your endless patience. They expected you to answer right away, forgive instantly, accept excuses, and stay available no matter what it cost you. Then one day, you start saying no. You stop explaining every single decision. You start protecting your time. You start speaking honestly. You stop carrying emotions that were never yours to hold. Suddenly, people might say you've changed, and honestly, they'd be right. You have changed. But the real question isn't whether you changed. The real question is whether you finally stopped abandoning yourself just to keep everyone else comfortable. The people pleaser inside you fears disappointment because it's been trained to treat other people's reactions as proof of your character. If someone's unhappy with you, you instantly assume you did something wrong. If someone pulls away, you feel responsible for bringing them back. If someone calls you selfish, you start questioning boundaries you had every right to set.